That fell out the other day, that middle piece, and I had no idea why.
Oh, the pop filter?
Yeah, it was. I think it's out right now, but I think it still should be good. Dude, that was like quick.
Oh, and your. Oh,
dude,
that's weird.
That was good, dude.
Nope.
Wait, did you change your hat?
I did not know.
Okay.
All right.
Alright, let's do this. Hey guys, welcome back to Clueless Gamers. I'm Pete.
I'm Dylan.
And I'm Nick.
And today we're back to review X-Men Apocalypse. I would say it's a highly anticipated film, given superhero films this year.
Absolutely.
It's kind of the year of superhero films here in 2016. So we're going to go into general impressions, which is going to be completely no spoilers. You don't have to worry about it. It'll probably be like 2 minutes or so. And then I'll give you a huge spoiler warning, and we'll just spoil the shit out of this movie. So going right into general impressions, I'd say. This movie is complicated for me. It's got some good parts, good moments. It's got a lot of laughs, I think.
Yeah.
It's just not what I wanted entirely. There's a lot of problems, which I don't normally say in movies just because I'm not a huge, video editor. So I don't normally notice things that other people, professionals, notice. And I can see the special effects in this movie are horrible. I mean, they're just bad.
Yeah.
They're really, really bad. Some of the acting works, some of it doesn't. There's some weird pacing problems. There's a little bit of plot holes. And for kind of a cap to this whole X-Men 6 films weird thing, where we don't know, where the universe is going, doesn't leave me wanting more, really. It just makes me want to look forward to Deadpool 2. So that's kind of my general impressions.
Well, you have unique about this is you have the person who's watched every X-Men movie. Have you watched every X-Men movie as well?
Yeah, I vaguely remember the.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it was a long time ago.
Yeah.
So you have
2000 was
two
my
people.
first one.
You have two people who've watched every X-Men movie. This is my first X-Men movie, so you have
Good place to
the
start.
different perspectives from,
Right,
from those. Yeah, right. And I have to say, I was disappointed. I've never been really let down by a superhero movie, like really let down.
You haven't seen a lot, though.
I guess, yeah, well, that's the thing. I've really only gotten into them over the last few years. But generally speaking, I don't want to spoil anything. I was a little disappointed, definitely. It was just very cliched for me, too cliched.
Definitely predictable.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I can't say I was disappointed. On one end, I'm typically an optimist. I like pretty much everything.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But on the other, with this movie, I went in, I heard a lot of things, a lot of mixed reviews, and
Definitely.
a lot of bad, very bad. So I went in with some low
A lot of
expectations.
controversy.
Yeah, so I went the low expectations, and I enjoyed it. It wasn't a great film, but I enjoyed it. Like what Pete said,
Yeah.
I wouldn't say the special effects were horrible, but below what they should be in this day and age. Like I've seen some really
For a film
great
of
things.
this caliber?
For a film of this caliber and in this era, it should be higher.
Right. I definitely agree there. I mean, would you say that's it?
Oh yeah.
So,
yeah.
all right. So those are our general impressions. We're gonna go full spoilers. A spoiler warning. We're spoiling everything in this movie: the beginning, the middle, the end, even the after credit scene. So everything's getting spoiled. If you don't want to know, put us in your watch for later. Come back after you see the entire movie.
Just like the video. and just-
Don't do that. And then you can come back and watch us. All right, so we're going into spoilers here. I guess the point to start off here for me, in going into likes here, is there's some performances I like in this movie. I think Michael Fassbender is amazing. I think this is, for me, probably the most entertaining I've seen of Magneto ever. That includes the Ian McKellen ones. It's just, he's so broken in this movie. Like, you see after, because every X-Men movie here in these new ones, First Class, Days of Future Past, and now Apocalypse, they're all in different decades. So
Yeah,
it started in the
60s,
70s, and now it's the 80s. So we're taking a 10-year gap, which was also a little bit of like, come on, that it was exactly the 10-year anniversary of all the events happening.
Yeah.
But whatever, right? So we kind of pick up with his life. He goes back home. I lean over to you and I said that he went back to Poland, which is where everything started, obviously, and he's kind of trying to figure out himself. He's being a person, not a mutant. Mm-hmm. And he's, doing, regular activities. He has a regular job, and it looks like a metal factory.
Yeah.
And he has a wife and a kid, a wife who knows everything about him, even the mutant part about him. And obviously we then discover that his kid's also a mutant, which is not really explained, but whatever. And he's just trying to live the life that Charles always hoped he would have.
Right.
Always a thing that he said, the goodness inside of him. And then it's, as I knew was coming, it's just ripped away from him. And he, for me, was the only of the four horsemen for Apocalypse that made sense. Like,
yeah. Everyone else was
Where I
like,
was
hey,
like,
here's like a
yeah.
very minor mutant, and like,
yeah.
I want you to be part of my in like at least in terms of like the Bible, whatever, like mythology
Right.
or whatever. The four horsemen of the apocalypse are always like some badass like characters.
And they've
like,
always been
brought
badass.
actual destruction. And
Exactly.
Magneto is the only one of those three that could bring that kind of destruction.
Magneto was the only one that I thought had a legit reason too to turn
Yeah,
his back
right?
on the population. Whereas for Storm, I thought that all
There's
the other
zero
ones
reason.
were kind of possessed.
We
and I
won't go
thought they
into
were under-
dislikes yet, but
Right,
like,
okay, right, okay, then I'll save my.
no, but
right.
I did think they were like kind of mind controlled by Apocalypse because he has those abilities
And then it
before.
seemed like they weren't.
Yeah,
so-
and then like Magneto's the only one that you see his family is ripped away from him. Again,
So,
he
like-
lost his family in World War II, obviously, in the Auschwitz, in the Nazi camps, right?
Right.
Then he technically loses his family again, losing Charles and Raven, Mystique, and all the X-Men. Everything he's known, he loses that. And he starts over for a third time, and it's ripped away again. You understand that this man is broken,
Yeah.
maybe beyond repair.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And like his acting, Michael Fassbender, I think is top notch in this. I think it's absolutely it's great to watch. And equally, I would say James McAvoy as Professor X is amazing.
Great, yeah.
I think he nails it. Again, these two guys, I thought they couldn't live up to the Patrick Stewart, Ian
But their
McKellen.
chemistry is-
They nailed it.
it's- yeah.
Nailed it. Chemistry is amazing. Love that.
Yeah, I don't want this to become like all about those two guys, but like I would say their performances in the past three, First Class, Days of Future Past, and this one, are what carried those three movies for me.
Oh,
Like
yeah, absolutely.
that the same as the first like three,
Mhm.
the Ian McKellen and Patrick Stewart dynamic really carried the series for me, and like
And you
I love
need-
it in the same way.
You need that
You do
because
need
you
that.
have that constant battle of Professor X and his children at the school always going against Magneto and his people, like like the Brotherhood. Like that's how the animated shows have been, the comics have been, and it's been the crux of these films. And I thought they did it really well here. I thought they
Yeah.
had some great scenes together. I love how they cut the First Class and Days of Future Past footage into this, especially for Magneto, showing his whole history of why he just can't trust humanity anymore.
Yeah, it really,
I mean,
it
he's
shows-
always the villain in their eyes.
Yeah, it kind of like every movie, there's something that humanity does to him that furthers his contempt for regular human beings, and why he feels like these are the next. I think it was in First Class where they talked about Homo sapiens taking over
Yeah.
and kind of eradicating Neanderthals and like taking their place, and now how they feel the mutants are taking over for the Homo sapiens.
I totally agree with that, and I like that. I also liked in this film is the way when Apocalypse was like launching all the nukes. I
Yeah.
thought, oh, he's gonna destroy the
Kill
world.
everyone, yeah.
Kind of something like Sebastian Shaw in the First Class one. That's what made me think of it. Is he was gonna do that because it was mutants are they're kind of the children of the nuclear power of radiation stuff. He wanted to create more. Whoever
Right.
survives. I was like, oh, all right, so we're going here again. And then he just sends them all to space and disarms all the superpowers. And I thought that was really cool.
It was more of a mind game, really,
Right.
than
And also, speaking of mind games, I thought another great scene is him and Charles kind of in, that mind warping thing of like them fighting each other.
Yeah,
I thought that was absolutely great.
Mhm.
That was a great idea that you've seen through TV shows and things like that. Like, those were things that got me invested in X-Men as a kid, and those were things that I loved seeing on screen. And obviously, a little thing is I freaked out a little bit when I seen Jubilee. It's really cool to see Jubilee on screen. Didn't really have a lot of lines, but maybe that will be
Yeah.
the future things. And I would say, I guess the last point to this is setting up. We don't know where these X-Men films are going now because this was kind of a cap.
Right.
But leaving the cast of a new Jean, of a new Scott, of Nightcrawler again, that gives me hope that these films could keep going on and could be great and could tell great stories.
Well, for me, like that, I think we discussed. We got food right before we came here to film this, and we discussed it over some pancakes and Belgian waffles. But I like
As
that.
you do.
Yeah, as you have to. But what I liked is the intro. The intro got me very.
Yeah, that was
the
great.
intro
Yeah.
scene where they go back to the before Christ time, and they show you that there are other mutants. They show you. How Apocalypse is even like created in the first place, and how he's kind of destroyed, and how the people feel he's a false god, which is
That
similar.
was so cool.
Which is similar to how the four horsemen kind of feel about him towards the
Mhm.
end, that he is a false god. So I thought that intro scene did a really good job of getting you invested in the movie, especially for me, a first moviegoer. It kind of made you really it kind of
Understand his
understand
history.
it. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I was just gonna go into a dislike about too many characters.
Yeah.
I don't want to go.
Wait.
Okay. The other thing too was Quicksilver was really fun.
Oh, great.
I loved
Super
him.
Again,
Yeah. I liked him
another
a lot.
great scene. You had it in Days of Futures Past when he puts on the headphones and you got a great kind of 70s song of him running around the kitchen.
Right.
Now you get an 80s song here, and it
Yeah.
was so good. Him saving everyone at the mansion.
Yeah,
Oh,
he saved almost everyone. He didn't save the
Havoc.
Yeah,
Havoc.
yeah. Who I thought that was cool because I didn't know his power, and
Yeah.
like when it was like destroy the machine that he was Apocalypse was using to launch all the missiles,
Yeah.
and that thing just comes out of his stomach. I didn't know that was
Yeah.
his like power, so I
Yeah.
thought that was really cool.
Yeah, he's very powerful.
But yeah, there were some good scenes. There definitely were, but it's just there were other things that didn't really live up to the hype. But those were two positives for me.
Yeah, I'd say Quicksilver provided that much needed
Comic relief.
the comic relief for the most part.
Also, Professor X, hilarious lines in this movie.
James McAvoy,
Nails it.
yeah, completely nailed
Nailed
it, and he has very good I don't know if that's the acting or writing, but good comedic timing, just the way
Just good rapport.
Yeah, exactly.
Like with all the actors around him.
Yeah, he was great. There was because this is out of the three, this is probably one of the darker movies. The end of humanity and
Right.
all that. But the light moments of it were really nice. It was especially the should I say now the Quicksilver scene?
Yeah, you
with
can say it, yeah.
Well, as you mentioned, the '80s song, but it was a Sweet Dreams, and it was
perfect.
Not our song. We
and
don't own the song.
yeah,
by
such
the
a
way.
dark thing was happening, but the way they went about
Perfect.
instead of taking a sad route, it's he's saving everyone while this song is playing, and it's so funny, and especially the way he's doing it, it's great.
And just showcasing his abilities, his powers, but also the way kind of these X-Men films have remade Quicksilver in a way, who's kind of in the animated series and the comics is a more serious, older character,
Mhm.
kind of has a lot of daddy issues, which they kind of touch on here. But he has this nice comedic timing where he's putting bed sheets up on trees and that's how it's catching people, or rolling up in mattresses.
Mattresses, yeah.
He's drinking energy drinks as he even saves goldfish for
Yeah,
people.
he scoops it up in the
and
bottom
the
of a
dog
wine
with
bottle.
the pizza,
Yeah, it was-
that was such a great scene. And I would also say, I leaned over to Dylan and I said, "Oh shit, is this movie R-rated?" Because that Wolverine scene, great.
Yeah.
When
What?
he
Oh my
comes out,
God.
amazing. That was the first time we've really seen Wolverine go, I would say, full-on berserker mode, especially since we had the R-rated. You could see the blood everywhere, some pieces of people that he ripped off. And that was
It was
awesome
dark.
to
It was
see
really cool.
the Weapon X, who has no memories, no anything. Kind of, again, another reboot, which gets really confusing in these X-Men universes. That was really cool, and that touching moment he had with Jean, where she kind of gives him back some of his memories. Loved that. Thought that was great.
That was good. That was very good.
That's all your
Yeah.
likes there, guys, that we can think of at the moment. I mean,
yeah.
we could touch on it more if we go back to it, but
Yeah,
I guess we're
yeah.
going to transition into dislikes.
Sure.
I mean, again, I've touched on it in general impressions. I will start. I'll start right away with the special effects. I never, ever, almost ever get taken out of a movie on special effects just because I'm not a professional. I don't notice them. And there's just some points in this movie where I'm like, what is wrong with the screen? Is it our theater that we're in? There's just, some of the scenes look like there was just a film over them.
Yeah.
Like when your window is covered with pollen? That's what I felt it was like. Where I'm like, why can't I see this half of the screen, but I could see this in perfect HD? It just didn't make any sense to me. And then I understand the Quicksilver scene. I loved it. It was hard to do. It's hard to animate people.
You're right.
I see it on The Flash all the time. But The Flash is a TV show. This is a
High budget.
very hundreds of $1 million of budget and marketing and everything else. All these great people, right? And when he's flipping and doing all this stuff, Quicksilver, it looks kind of fake, some of the
Sometimes,
stuff.
yeah.
It's like,
And
Ugh.
of course, it is fake.
Right.
Sometimes it looks cheesy, and
there's
it's
no guy with super speed around?
I wish.
Ah, shit.
But yeah, it's hard to make that look real, but it's not hard to make it look not cheesy.
Right.
And that sometimes,
Right,
they got lost.
There's a scene in Civil War, spoilers for this, when Captain America, he's chasing down Black Panther, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he jumps from one building to the roof and he kind of does a roll where you're like,
it's
look at that
nostalgic,
great.
yeah.
But they do it on a far away shot.
Yeah,
It's
that
super
looks-
quick.
yeah.
It doesn't look atrocious. Where you're like, all right, I can forgive that.
Yeah.
But in this, when you're doing these zoom close-in shots of everything exploding and Quicksilver running around and it's like, wait, what?
Yeah.
This should look better. Or, I mean, the ending scene of all the metal being lifted out of the earth and stuff.
Yeah.
All those effects look a mess. They're everywhere. They're terrible. I thought Psylocke's effects look like shit.
They didn't.
I didn't like them at all. Like
I'm on the fence about that. to be
even
honest.
Storms was okay at some parts, and then in other parts I'm like, that looks like super fake lightning. Like I don't know, it just just didn't do it for me.
The worst one for me was, even though I conceptually agree with P, I really liked the mind fighting concept.
Yeah.
You know,
It was a good
not
idea.
Professor Xavier versus
Right.
Apocalypse in the mind. It was a good idea, but in practice,
yeah.
you know, initially it seemed like, you know, to cover up for bad special effects, they just made it dark, really dark.
And they like cut half of Apocalypse
Yeah, so
off
it's
when
like,
he got
okay, like,
big.
this doesn't look that bad because it's very
Yeah.
dark. But then as soon as they transition to like a lighter part, I'm like, this hallway looks horrible.
And like when he gets big, it's a cool scene.
Yeah.
But then when he's walking down the hallway,
yeah, and it's like,
he looks so odd. Even the way he walks, he looks like bubbly on his legs.
Yeah.
And, like it looks strange.
and then watching Jean like walk out of the door like with the light behind him, I'm like,
Yeah.
I don't know.
I don't know. Even for me, the huge moment in the movie, obviously, that kills Apocalypse, it hints at future movies, is Jean releasing her power, and obviously anyone that doesn't know comics, or you, or it has the Phoenix Force in it, right? Even the Phoenix Force behind her didn't even look that good.
No.
I thought they did it better in X3, which is an atrocious movie. Like, it was just like, wait, what? Did you hire professionals, or was it like people like me who barely know anything about video effects? Like, who the fuck was doing this? Like, I'd rather you have delayed the movie 2 months if that's what it took to like finish some of those effects. Like it was not good at all there. Psylocke for me, I don't really hate Olivia Munn like most people do. I don't know enough about her. I know she married Aaron Rodgers and that's about it. But like, I mean, we're going out with him or whatever. But like, she has like 5 lines in this movie. Makes no sense why she's with Apocalypse as well. And she barely does anything.
Right.
Then is this weird like scene where she walks away and it's like 2 close-up shots of like showing the audience like, yeah, she's walking away, man. But then like the second shot is like she's 3 feet from where she just was.
Yeah.
So it's like, what the
Yeah,
fuck
it
did
was
you
kinda
just
pointless,
add to this
yeah.
scene? That was a waste. yeah, I don't know. Just shit like that. Why Storm joined? Great that
Yeah.
she has her African accent. Finally, thank you. And the actress was good. It just, she barely does
There's
anything.
no motivation there.
There's no motivation. Oh, Apocalypse, you're the only mutant here in Egypt, basically, that I've ever seen. Oh, I'll join your team to destroy the world. Like, wait, what? No, yeah, and even Angel is like, oh, he's a broken down man because, you know, Nightcrawler fucked up his wing and he's like drinking and listening to hard rock music.
Yeah, it's Metallica. I'm
But,
pretty sure.
yeah, but like,
We
then-
don't own that. Sorry. Copyright.
but then like he never like has any reason, really, justification.
No.
And then he becomes the awesome Archangel, which is a great character. They don't even fully do the face makeup on him, and he does like nothing. He's like, Archangel's super powerful, especially with Apocalypse's power.
Yeah,
does
basically
nothing.
He flies.
Gets his ass kicked like several
he gets
times.
killed, doesn't he?
No, they like hint that he's alive, but he's like
oh,
bleeding
okay.
on the ground or
Okay.
some
His
shit.
half his face pretty messed up.
Yeah, I don't know. It just that shit just it didn't work for me, and then
No.
I think the central point here for me, and I know I'm talking a long time. It's
No,
just
it's cool.
it's Mystique. I'm sorry. I love Jennifer Lawrence. I think she's a great actress. I know a lot of other reviewers that you've probably watched have said this, but she's not Mystique. She's never been Mystique. I've said that since the beginning. If I was making videos then in 2011, I would have said it then. And she got better, you know, in Days of Futures Past, where I'm like, all right, I'm kind of used to this. It kind of makes sense why she's the central point of the story. And then in this, it makes literally no sense. Like, why is she the central point of the story again? Oh, because she's Jennifer Lawrence. That's why. Like, she, like, that's not Mystique.
They like, wrote it for her.
Right, like Mystique doesn't. Why would she even train the X-Men at the end? It doesn't make any sense.
Well,
Wasn't
she's
part
the
of
central.
Brotherhood?
She's the central point of the story. She's got about
Supposed to
20
be
to
one.
25 lines. That's
Yeah.
it. So it's like,
Yeah.
even though she's the central part of the story, it's not even like they wrote her character that
No.
way.
Which are not even delivered well. As she acts through this movie, Jennifer Lawrence,
And not
she
great.
gets progressively worse. The worst I've ever seen her act.
Yeah, that
like
last,
it's just bad.
The last line she had, where she's like trying to give like some sort of like rallying speech to the new X-Men.
Yeah.
It's like
Yeah, I was like, I'm not
completely
inspired.
unconvincing.
The one that made me just like cringe, and I hate using that word. It's just the one where she's like sitting there and they have like the flight suits, and she goes to Hank. She's like, "You got your warplane, right?" let's go to war. It
Oh,
literally looked
yeah,
like
that
she was
was-
sleeping when she gave that line. I was like, that's not acting.
That was a-
I could do
Oh,
that. That's
yeah. It's
Talking
terrible.
to the camera.
Oh my god. And also, obviously, a huge
Oh,
thing if
man.
people follow these movies is she hates Jennifer Lawrence being in that blue makeup. Hey, if you sign up to be Mystique,
You should be.
guess what? You're gonna be in that makeup. You know, everyone else does it.
Yeah,
From Beast doing it in this movie, I forget the actor name, to Zoe Saldana.
Nicholas-
Nicholas
Cage?
Holt. Nicholas Holt. No. Nicholas Holt. That's right. He's great. He does it no problem. Zoe Saldana does it all the time in Guardians, in Avatar, right?
Yeah.
All these people, this is what you sign up to do. Azazel, I don't know the actor's name in the First Class one, he's all red the whole movie. He had no problem doing it. But then she does it like 4 times, and the movie goes out of its way to explain why she's
Yeah.
not in blue makeup. Like, no. Like,
I
that did
remember
not
that
work
in
for
First
me.
Class,
Yeah,
where I was
no,
like,
did not
yeah.
work for me.
Yeah.
No. Those are my dislikes.
Yeah, there was one specific. I don't know. Maybe there's a memo I missed about like mutants aging slower than normal people, but this
Right.
this series takes place over 20 years,
Right.
and Mystique. Quicksilver is introduced in Days of
Right,
Future
but
Past.
this
That's
is
still
10
10 years. That's still
years.
10 years.
Even if he was 15,
Beast,
he's 25.
I think Fassbender was the only one that kind of like made them look a little aged
Yeah.
over like maybe 15 years,
Yeah.
10, 15
and they
years.
they
But
aged
the other-
James
the
McAvoy
other-
by shaving his head.
Yeah, and the rest of them like didn't age a single day.
Right, and the only one that has an excuse for that is Mystique, because in the First Class they explain
That
that
she-
she has cells that make her age like 3 times slower than
Okay,
normal
all right. So
human.
that that
So
was
that's the
excusable.
only one that's excusable. Otherwise, it's like, I mean, we couldn't have made a little bit, like, I understand the new people like Scott and Jean. And also, another thing that it was pissing me off. First of all, Havoc has always been weird in this series. He's
Oh,
cool.
he was another one that
What?
was in First Class and maybe aged 5,
That's
6
20
years, over 20 years.
Right? And like, that's 20 years, right? So even if in First Class he's 16, let's say it was, which he did not play
Yeah,
16.
36.
Right? So he's 36 now, but then there's a massive age gap. It's possible,
18
but
years, maybe.
Scott's what, 17, 18, and they're like brothers? It's like, they were a little bit weird there.
Yeah, it's
like,
possible though.
it's
I mean,
possible. It's just like stretching it, and obviously Havoc has not been what kind of he is in the comic books,
No.
which is fine. He's been cool, but then you fucking kill him.
Yeah, not.
What?
And not in any way that really mattered either.
Right, it was
No.
like an explosion, which then cuts to a great Quicksilver scene. So we don't even have any time to mourn over what
Yeah.
just happened.
Yeah.
Yeah, that.
Like, what's your
yeah.
dislikes here?
Well, my dislikes is the whole predictability of the entire story. That scene that I'm glad you mentioned it, because that was maybe the only unconventional thing that happens, even though there usually is.
I didn't expect that.
But there usually is in these kind of movies, sometimes like maybe a minor hero death scene,
Yeah.
to be fair. So you have the 4 horsemen. You have, I would say, 2 that were kind of on borderline good, borderline evil in Magneto and in Storm.
Yeah.
And then you had the other 2 who Olivia Munn's character.
Psylocke.
Okay, and then you had Angel.
Angel.
And Angel
Which
was
is an
always,
archangel.
and he was always kind of shown in this movie at least to be kind
He's
of a
bad,
dick.
yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
Olivia Munn's character, I just forgot her name again.
Psylocke.
Yeah, which also I'm glad she only had about 5 to 10 lines.
you don't
'cause
like
you're
her
not
very
a
much.
fan.
yeah, again, you said it before. In comedies, she's all right. I don't mind her.
Yeah,
there.
I think she had a cameo in New Girl. I enjoyed her in that. She's in another movie with that actor. I can't remember. His name.
Right, but in serious movies like this, she just doesn't do it for me, and I know she doesn't do it for a lot of other people
Yeah.
as well. So I'm glad they kind of limited
I
her.
just don't know
lines.
enough about her.
Yeah, you know, she's a good-looking actress, but honestly, just not my style.
Yeah, no, obviously she filled out the Psylocke outfit
Yeah,
perfectly
yeah,
fine.
yeah,
You know, that's
absolutely.
great. She
Yeah.
also fought to wear that and not make it. She wanted to be that sexualized because that's what it looks like. She fought to keep that.
Yeah, really.
Yeah.
Yeah, real good for her. And so I didn't mean that to be
Damn.
cynical. I really didn't mean that. It's gonna sound so cynical, but no. So you have those 2. So I'm just analyzing the 4 horsemen right now. So the 2 in Magneto and in Storm, who were kind of borderline good, they became good and fought against Apocalypse at the end.
Right.
Where the other 2, you don't really know what happens to them.
Right.
You have her kind of walk off, and then Angel, who I think got killed. I mean, he was in a plane.
He's like
that
bleeding
exploded.
to death on the ground.
Yeah,
It's like, did they take him in and bring him to the X-Men?
Yeah,
or-
I don't know. But you have those 2 who didn't really fight against Apocalypse, but they were always evil. And then you had all the good guys survive. None of them died. There were no casualties except the
Except
one we
Havoc.
just mentioned, yes. which happened not in the main fighting scene.
Right.
No, it's like him.
It happens in a
chasing
weird
Exactly.
way.
It happens in a very weird way, and there's no big loss. And
I don't
there's
even
no
know
big
when
warning.
he hit, right? So he's in Cerebro.
And it goes through and just hit. Well,
But like,
it's-
what did it hit? Did it hit like a generator?
Must have hit a
Like,
It's like a
generator.
generator. That's what they. It's implied.
that explodes the whole school?
The
Like,
entire
Yeah,
school, which
yeah.
is probably like a major design flaw of this. The one generator explosion just takes the entire thing, the
Yeah.
entire building.
I don't know.
So that was it. Just too predictable for me. I like movies. I thought that the professor was going to die at the end,
Yeah.
and for me, if
but
he did,
you never kill Professor X.
yeah, I mean, but see, as a first-time fan, I didn't know that he's that important to the story, which obviously he is. So I was kind of hoping that was going to happen.
You
Not
just
because-
want these
Not
people
because
to
no,
die.
no. I was going to say not because I want to see people die, but I feel like when you use death in the right way, it can really add to
It's
the emotion of a
powerful,
movie.
absolutely.
Extremely powerful. And the one death scene they had, I didn't think they did it that well. So to me, very cliche, very predictable, and that was
I
an
mean,
issue.
I agree with that. I'm
Yeah.
sorry to cut you
I don't
off.
know.
There was some lines in this movie where I'm literally mouthing her in my head, like I know exactly what's coming.
I had forgotten about that. You have a
Ex-
warplane? Let's go to war.
That was,
Yeah.
it was so, it's in the trailers. You can see it.
Yeah.
It is so
It's very
bad.
bad. God, I forgot
It
about
is
that
so
line.
fucking bad, and like just oh my god, it's just disappointing. And again, I don't watch Game of Thrones,
Yeah,
but like
I
Sophie
was
Turner
about
in
to
this
touch on
movie,
that.
I didn't think was bad. I need to see more of her. I just don't know if she's my Jean. I just don't know.
Yeah, like I think she did a pretty good job. Okay job.
She looked
with
like Jean.
She fit the role.
She looked like Jean.
physically, and I love Game of Thrones. I love Sansa, even though she doesn't do much. She's great. But I felt like in this movie she might have been struggling to hide her accent. I don't know, maybe she
Yeah,
was
there's a little bit of moments.
either
where
that or
peeking
she was
through.
just the lines just weren't there. I don't know. Some things just didn't do it for me. But like I like her. I want her to improve as Jean. I think she could be Jean, but maybe not quite now.
Right, and like they kind of touch on her and Scott like having their comical relationship that they had.
You're right.
That should have been in the first 3 movies, but like it was like she had a hard on for Wolverine.
They definitely
and
alluded
Scott
to
was
that.
super whiny, like
They alluded to that same little love triangle at that moment.
Yeah, when
where
she
she's
was,
touching Wolverine.
I mean,
and
it's a
Scott
it's a part
clearly
of it. I get
visibly
it,
uncomfortable.
but like Scott Summers is like a great X-Men. He's a great hero. He's the leader of the X-Men. He's a badass. Yeah, he's kind of a little strict and kind of kind of a straight man in a way you could say, but in the original 3, he's like a whiny little bitch that they kill in the 3rd one in a fog by a lake. Like, it didn't even make any fucking sense. So, like, this was great. I thought whoever the actor is...
he did a good job.
thought
And
he did great.
He looked exactly
He was
like
exactly like
should have
Scott.
been.
He acted like Scott. That was all great. Him having his powers, splitting the tree. That was a great,
That
when
was
he
a funny little thing.
with his grandfather's tree. That was great with Professor X. That was
Favorite
great.
tree.
But like, and even a classic shot that's in comics. It's in the TV show. It was in the original, I think, X1 or 2. Of him like splitting the school. That always happens when Scott defines his powers. It always happens like that. Great to see that, even though that bully in that school was so cliche.
Yeah.
Oh my god. I am a girl, bro?
Yeah, that was
He
the-
literally
oh
said
my
that.
God,
And
yeah.
I was just like, seriously? Like, is this the 80s?
And he's like, you crying already? I haven't even beat you up yet.
That was kind of
like,
stupid.
I was
Yeah,
like, okay,
cringy, really.
I got it. But like, he did it well for me. But just some of the other parts, like that, there's not enough Jubilee in this movie, and then there's just not enough of like a lot of the other characters. Like Nightcrawler is great. He looks
did
it.
good,
The guy acts like Kurt. He nails it. The special effects were actually great on Kurt.
Yeah, he looked.
And he's
he
not
looked
even
bad.
used that greatly, or like.
I think Nightcrawler looked a lot. His costume looked way better than Beast over the course of all 3
Oh yeah,
movies.
absolutely.
Especially better than the First Class Beast. But
Also, another
still better than this one.
Another dislike for me. Sorry to interrupt you.
No, sure.
No,
As a casual fan who this is the first movie he's seen, which probably is a horrible idea in hindsight, it's way too many characters for me. And I know to the people that are very into X-Men,
It's X-Men.
and it is X-Men. And maybe if I watched from the beginning, that wouldn't be an issue for me. But if this is a one-off thing and you are just going to see this movie, a lot of characters.
A lot of characters who don't get proper
Overwhelmed.
screen
Yeah,
time.
don't get proper development.
But like, at least if you're gonna give us a lot of characters, right? Explain to us
Even
who
if
they
it's
are,
5 to 10 minutes.
right?
you know?
Like, and I'm even explaining as you, right?
Mhm.
So like, you have no idea who the hell Jubilee or Nightcrawler is. You don't
No.
even really know Mystique, right? and there's really no explanation. And I understand that's a lot to ask of a director and a writer, of someone who's just jumping in. I get that. But, like, there are characters introduced in here, the ones I just mentioned, that are, this is their first movie.
And they still don't get it.
And there's, like, not really a lot to do. Like, the last dislike I want to touch on.
Yeah, I think.
Is pacing. This movie is weird. The way it's edited, the way it's paced, it's like, there's some scenes where it's like, all right, we have a great opening scene, and now we're at Charles' school, all this shit's great.
Yes, yeah.
But then we're on to a, even though the Wolverine scene was great, we're on to like a Weapon X side story here with Stryker.
Yeah, and then
we're
only touched on it.
Right, and then we're in intense scenes here, but then we're back to the mansion with Scott and Jean going to the mall. And then we're in another intense scene. Then we're coming out of them seeing Return of the Jedi in this weird, like, joke to be like, what about third movies, which is making fun of their terrible third movie. Spoiler alert, your third movie here in your new reboot franchise is your worst one as well. So, like,
so like, a little bit of a meta joke.
Yeah, and then just that final act is terrible.
Yeah,
I mean, it's awful. Like, it's messy. The special effects are terrible. You don't know who the fuck is fighting what or what is going on. I think even Beast's effects look always weird.
Beast's effects look weird. I forgot Nightcrawler.
Right?
They got knocked, or fell asleep, or whatever happened to him.
Right. I totally forgot.
Then he woke up, and it was like, what?
And that was funny, but I totally forgot he was knocked out.
Yeah.
And, like, their whole plan is like, all right, so we're going to fight the Four Horsemen. Kurt, you get in there into this maze of a pyramid and go get Charles, which is not going to stop Apocalypse. It's going to stop him from transferring into Charles. Yeah. But then, like, Charles gets to do a mind fight with Apocalypse. They all join in, which is very X-Men-like. I like that. But he has like a force field or whatever around it, and he's like fucking them all up and things like that. And then all of a sudden Magneto comes in, and of course, not so subtly, has to drop 2 steel beams that form an X. Like, I was just like, bro, like, are we serious right now? And I just, that final act is, you don't even get a real fight with Apocalypse. Like, the most you get is Quicksilver punching him.
Yeah.
Like, what the fuck?
Which is the very start of the fight.
And also very brutal of him breaking his leg out.
Yeah, that was hard to watch.
But it was cool. Just this movie is a mess, man. It's such a mess. There's good moments for the future, but it's just...
They did a lot right, did some things wrong, but...
Yeah. I mean, I guess the final point I guess we can talk about is the end scene, right?
Sure, yeah.
So you get this one end scene where you kind of go back to Weapon X, and we see what's happening there, and they're collecting all these blood samples. And one says Weapon X. There was no really X-23 one, which I was really hoping for, even though they could kind of hint to that. But then you see it's all packaged up into like Essex Corps, which is Mr. Sinister's corporation, which is kind of weird because I guess he's the next villain, although Mr. Sinister has worked under Apocalypse before. So, I mean, for anyone who doesn't know Mr. Sinister, he's like the ultimate, like, geneticist, basically. He experiments.
Yeah, to be honest, I wasn't too familiar with
He experiments on mutants and tries to make them more powerful and fucks them up in some ways and dissects them. And he's Mr. Sinister. He's a very evil person.
Yeah.
So that would be cool to see him. We haven't seen him in live action yet, but that was kind of the little hint there, as well as kind of Wolverine, maybe X-23, because it's obviously Weapon X. He's escaped, and also Gambit used to work for Essex Corp. So
that's a kind of ambiguous.
Kind of,
they can do a few things.
Kind of a hint to that movie too, even though you don't know where the hell that is, because that was supposed to come out in November with Channing Tatum.
That's not happening.
But it's been delayed to they don't know even when. I think Doug Liefeld or somebody, correct me in the comments below if I'm wrong, was the director. The directors left. A couple of the writers left, so they don't even know where that movie is. The only thing they know is coming out is Deadpool 2, which I think is in like 2018. So that's really all they know. So the X-Men universe definitely up in the air. There's cool hints to the future, but I guess we're going into the 90s next. I guess.
We'll see.
So I guess going into ratings here, I struggle with this one. Again, as I said before, Batman v Superman, I gave too high of a rating. At this point, I probably gave it a 5.5. I gave it a 7 originally. For this movie, I'm not going to be super harsh. I was entertained, probably even more so, even though Batman and Superman holds more weight given the characters, seeing Wonder Woman on screen.
Yeah.
This movie's more entertaining, made me laugh more. I'm going to go 6. I think 6 out of 10 is appropriate. I think my love of X-Men is giving it that 6.
Yeah.
It's just, there's just so many things wrong in this very oddly mess of a movie.
Yeah. So for me, I see, we're in such an age right now, and it maybe hurts my
ratings are subjective.
Well, no, not with ratings, where there's so many superhero movies.
There's so many.
And
I'm enjoying it, though.
I'm enjoying it, too. But to stand out to me, you have to have either great characters, to me, maybe a shocking ending, a different ending, not a cliched ending.
That's the man that wanted to kill Captain America.
No,
Probably the same man that would have went along with
Iron Man.
Yeah,
you would prefer Iron
it would have been
Man.
the same man that would have went along with Cap being a Hydra agent. But anyway.
Okay, well that's just me. And to me, it just didn't have any of that. I didn't think the acting was great by a lot of people.
Yeah, only a few key performances.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm gonna give it a 4.5.
Wow, all
that's
right.
pretty brutal.
All right.
I just wasn't.
Like I said at the beginning,
That's your lowest.
I
rated
tend to be
movie.
optimistic about movies, and like probably like more bad things than I should. But I thought it was very enjoyable, and there were certain other few
Made me laugh.
performances by like McAvoy, Fassbender, among others that really carry the movie itself for me. So probably like a 6.5.
You go 6.5. Even that small cameo that Hugh Jackman does. was great.
Exactly, that was enough.
Yeah, that was great. Also, another point I want to touch on. When you get to Angel, when Apocalypse comes in there and makes him into Archangel, how loud... I'm sorry, that music there was off. It was way too loud for that scene where I'm like, I couldn't hear what they were... And maybe that's because we were sitting super close.
Yeah,
but
that
I
whole
get that.
movie was kind of loud for us because we were super
But
close.
I think that even if you were sitting in the background, that was
Would've been-
too loud.
Yeah, the
like
mix
the
of it was
audio
loud.
engineer was a little messed up there, but that was a little minor point there. So I guess if that's all we're saying here. So there you go, guys. There's our review on X-Men Apocalypse. We're not too high on it.
It wasn't a terrible.
Yeah,
movie.
6.5 is a good
Right,
rating.
I definitely think go out, see it, give your own opinions, comment below what you thought about the movie. What do you think, most importantly, is the future of the X-Men movies? It's kind of undefined at this point. We don't know really what's coming. Did you like kind of the new additions? Obviously, if they're going to make more films, which they're going to because, hello, money, you're going to see more of Jean Grey, more of Scott, and more of people like Jubilee and Nightcrawler. Do you think the actors gave worthy performances? Were the characters up to your standards that you want to see more movies of them? Let us know down below and give us your rating in the movie. And I guess we'll be back, who even knows, for another X-Men movie. But I would say, if you really want some X-Men, read some comics of X-Men. There's some great runs in there. Check out the X-Men Apocalypse run in the comic books.
Yeah.
Also check out the 90s animated series, and I would say the 2000s one, and even the 2009 Wolverine and the X-Men is a great series that bullshittedly got canceled after one season.
Damn.
That I'm still bitter about 7 years later, because they teased Apocalypse at the end, and then they never came back for season 2. But anyway, go check those out if you love if you love X-Men. Check them out. There's so many. There's the new X-Men show that's coming on TV to FX next year. I hope that's super great. It's also supposedly supposed to be weirdly tied into the same universe as the movies. So I don't know how the fuck that's gonna work. But if you know any of those things that you know more than me, let me know down below, and come back for more movie reviews, guys. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, share with your friends if you'd be so kind. And until next movie review, guys, thanks for watching.
I'm Batman.